Okay, ladies, we're going to wait 2 more minutes until we have a little bit of a change in schedule today, as you can see. And we're going to wait a few minutes. Before we start to share, I just wanted to make sure that my internet was working because we have had disruptions. So I'm going to put you on hold for a second. Not actually, just going to turn the computer so that we can begin. Okay, so hang in there. Sorry. Welcome to this different part of my house. Hi, Kamana.
Hello.
Hi, sweetie.
We're a little late because we were cleaning up brand.
You were cleaning up brand?
Yes.
Here's the we
What does that
instead
mean?
of the me.
There's garbage all over the streets and we found a bag, so we took the bag and used it for the garbage and the washing.
You're so cute. Have a seat.
Thank you. It's so pretty.
Let's have some. It's all the brachas are in there.
Really?
Yeah. Eitz, Hadama, Shahako. We're going to make all these brachas now. We're going to make brachas under the stomach.
Okay.
What, sweetie?
Catchy.
Yeah, of course. I put
Oh, your
everywhere.
drawers are so clean.
Did
you wash them?
No, and my floor is actually not clean.
They look clean.
Oh, you put up? Sorry.
What do you do with those bananas? You make something out of them?
Probably because every day something else happens. I don't cook anything with it. What kind of seed do you like?
Whatever the first thing you put down.
You like non-caffeinated?
Yeah.
You like this one?
Yes, I do.
Okay, take that to the table. Let's see.
Cheryl,
Do
do
you want seed or water? Water. So there's water in the table.
what happened to your dog?
It's on the, what's it called? The plastic bag. My garbage can got infested with some kind of a bug. So the whole thing out.
You want me to get you one?
No, a garbage can? No, I don't want a garbage can.
Oh, you don't want one?
I'd rather prefer like this. Every day I take it out, take out the garbage and. Okay, Sameach today. We have all these funny things happening. Let me just close this door. You don't want the sweetener, right?
What?
You want sweetener, you don't want sweetener.
Only in the cake.
Can I open this?
Can you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can. May I?
Okay. Of course you may. That's why I put it there.
Thank you.
There's Hazama, there's Ha'etz, Hazama, Shahakol,
Wow.
and now there's Borei Atzei V'Samim
That's
and
it?
Atzei.
Okay.
Wait 1 second. Come closer because it's all full of little leaves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei
Atzei
atzei.
V'Samim. Amen. And now you could also squeeze this. I like this the
Okay.
best.
And
That's lavender. This is
lavender?
that's lavender. This is rosemary.
Okay. But that's also atzei, no?
Yeah, these are all Atzei. And this is something that the Rav smelled from it. So lean over.
So I'm just
Doesn't have
atzei,
such a
it's all
smell.
atzei,
No,
it's
it's all on. You don't have to make another bracha. That doesn't have such a smell anymore.
Oh.
This is something that grows right next to my house. I like it. It's called
It's strong.
I forgot what it's called.
Oops, limonite, verbena, something?
No, neither of those. And then you can take a little bit of here. If you want lemon, you can make borimine with lemon. Put a little bit on you.
No, I don't think I'm hold on, very creative.
Mm.
Oh,
Yeah.
Why is it not good to eat the brown part?
I don't believe in any of that stuff.
No?
Come in. You
Hello?
can eat the brown part. Hi,
Is
sweetie.
new truffle?
No.
Hi.
Actually, one of my older ones.
Oh, really?
I have something underneath it to make it thicker. Put a little, you could put a little, if you want lemon, put a little bit on. You were never here, Cheryl?
What?
Were you ever here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, sit down.
I think I was, but I don't remember. Is it possible it was somewhere else and not here?
No,
No.
the last few years it's always been here, but I remember you being here. Maybe not. I don't know.
I think I was, but whatever.
Okay.
Whatever.
So that's good. It's like new.
We're going to use it for these.
And Hanesi selects to sit there.
Yes, I'll sit here.
You can move the flowers in.
Where should I put them?
So who's sitting here? Goldie, you
Put them in the
sitting
corner there. No, you can
Here?
sit here. That's always where you sit.
here? Oh, thank you.
No, you know, what? Put them on the windowsill
Hello.
by my earrings. I know I left earrings on the window on Shabbos.
That's
Goldie, quick question.
Actually, it looks nice. up there.
Bathroom?
No,
what?
no, I was just, in terms of the last time we were at your house,
Uh-huh.
did we pay for the shiur or it
No,
was
because
sponsored?
No, because it was
sponsored.
It's
sponsored.
sponsored. So now I owe for today and for the last week when I did it on Zoom.
No, it was sponsored also.
No, it wasn't.
Last week
No,
was
when it's
sponsored.
sponsored,
No, I was on Zoom because I couldn't come in person.
Right.
Last week, Vera sponsored it.
right. When it's sponsored,
We pay, oh, you could pay
you
anyway?
still anyway pay,
would
and
be
then you
fine.
catch it for the next week.
Okay, so then I need to-
So then
So I
everybody-
just don't know how many I owe you for. That's why I'm
It's all
asking.
right. It's okay. It's all right.
Five.
And I honestly speaking,
What?
I'd rather,
Five.
what?
Five.
That's the. See,
I'd
you're a
rather
good
pay
businesswoman.
cash.
I am a
Honestly,
good businesswoman.
Golden?
Huh?
I could rather
Shabbos
pay cash. I
Gedilan
don't have to do all
Matsui.
this other stuff.
Bananas.
Fine.
Because
So
there's
60
a
shekel.
banana.
60?
Yeah.
Okay. To you or to?
No, not to.
Give it to Hannah
Hannah
Zisel.
Zisel,
All
I'm
she's
sorry.
collecting all the
Is
I'm
money.
she here
retired.
now?
She'll
She
be
retired.
fine.
Is she coming
She's
today?
coming, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so remind me at the end. Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
I did it first.
Okay, the Rav said something so interesting today about.
As
Okay,
usual, you look beautiful.
thank you.
She has such a way of,
Yes.
Putting it together.
yes.
It's because Hashem is blessing the fact that I'm wearing a mitpachad. Otherwise, if he didn't want it, it wouldn't
It's
work.
always art.
Nano.
Whatever
Does
she
anyone
does,
know?
it's
Do
art.
you ever know what is an herb called nano? Did you ever hear of that herb called nano?
No.
What is it? Yesh Paras. What's it nano? What is it? Nano. Okay, so we'll make a brachas party afterwards. We're still. Oh, I don't have sperm for you. I have one.
Okay, well, listen.
One second. I do like to learn the sacred.
I like looking at glasses. I think the glasses are.
Yeah, you like to learn the sacred.
Okay.
Just it has a million pages in papers in it. You know what just so we're in Nunvav.
Ooh,
Use my purple bag on that chair, maybe someone's chair. Where did people there?
You need a purple bag?
My pocketbook with the glasses.
You sure you can with?
Yeah.
it's not here.
It's not on Cheryl's thing? Here it is. It is on Cheryl, on the right side.
Here.
Oh.
Careful, 2 hands because it has lots of papers. That's not purple. That's purple. I wouldn't call that.
Today's an interesting English date. It's the 5th of the 5th of the 25th.
Oh, cool. I
Cool.
love that.
5th of the 5th of the 25th.
Yeah.
Okay, we don't pay attention to
Oh, no,
that.
I know, but it's fun anyway.
Right, I have
I'm not saying it means something.
I have a student who was talking to me about numerology. You can make a bracha on that if you want. There's Ha'etz, Hadama, and Shahako, and there's a lot of coins if you want to become rich. The chocolate is a healthy chocolate without sugar, but the coins chocolate that I put on the table, that's junk sugar. But you could have it as a symbol of
So
wanna
this is
become
a
rich.
shackle. I think.
that's a Shahako, yeah.
Amen.
Amen. Okay, I also, for anybody who wants, I have some tefillot to give out if you want. I just was in shul and they gave all of these, for anyone who wants, I have
For what? Beautiful one.
tefillah for all different kinds of things. In English, I have tefillah for Shalas and Nefesh. I have Sheila for a four. There are a whole bunch near you. I'll show you afterwards. Just remind me.
Okay.
I'll show you afterwards, okay? Okay, so we're learning in Nun Vav, Torah Nun Vav, lesson Nun Vav, right before little subsection Bet. And I stopped in the middle of the paragraph, and I'm just going to start from the beginning of the paragraph. We're talking about Amunas Chachamim, trusting tzaddikim, trusting in tzaddikim, and really what that means. It's very hard because we don't know nowadays who's anybody. We don't know who's tzaddikim, the Rav Yinuk is a tzaddik, that's for sure. But we don't know who's Gedolei Hador now. There was a whole discussion that I got from, there's in America, there's something called the World Zionist Organization, WZO. I didn't know anything about it. It's an American thing. And they're having elections, not elections. They're having, it's sort of like a vote. Listen to this. You have to pay $5.
Why do you have to pay $5?
Yeah, you have to pay $5 to vote. I don't pay anybody anything to do anything like that. But you have to pay $5 to vote, which is, I think, outrageous. And then and there's a whole slate of different organizations that supposedly help Jews in the world. I don't know if it's just in Israel or in the world. And whoever wins that election gets like $1 billion with a B, some crazy amounts of money. So,
well, in order to organize
yeah, in order to hamshich et ha'avodah shalem, to support them. So there was a whole back and forth that someone mailed me. Hi Sarah, where are you? Oh, you're right, because you can't come, right? Hi Sarah Vandikas is on YouTube. Thank you. Everybody who's on YouTube from our shir, because Ruthie's Zoom didn't work today because whatever. It's Hashem arranged this. And all the reasons don't really matter, but whatever it is. So if you're on YouTube from the regular shir, just send text in the, I don't know what you call that, chat, maybe it's called the chat, that you're here, because I can't see you. Normally I can see your beautiful faces, but I can't. On YouTube, you don't see the listeners when they're listening live. You only, because I'm on YouTube. The Zoom, I don't want to start with my Zoom link. It's only 40 minutes, and then it stops in the middle of everything. And so why not put it on YouTube directly? And so who's ever on YouTube, please, first of all, welcome to my house. You can see my kitchen in the background. Kitchen's over there. One bookcase is over. I can't, when I point, it goes over there. People in front of me are over there. Okay. That's your house, Cheryl, by the way, across the street. Yeah. I can show you your porch. Yeah.
The space, we call it the space.
Your space. Okay, so there was a whole discussion about whether Jews should vote in this WZO, because it's called World Zionist Organization. There's a big machlokas about it in the American world. Some people say, of course, vote. So what if it's called World Zionist? So what if it has the name Zionist? If it's going to give money to frum organizations, and you have a chance to give money to a religious organization, because it's that's how I know that it's fake, because it's all or nothing. It's not even a proportion. The winner takes all. That's what I think. And that's not, I don't think that's not stucca, that's not kosher, that's not Yiddishkeit, as far as I'm concerned. So there was a discussion. They asked one of the Gedolim in America. I'm not going to say names now because I'm not sure to say names. But I got this correspondence from the son of one of the Gedolim in America, who said that his father, who's a tzaddik and very well known, tried to contact one of the tzaddikim here, who's also tzaddik and very well known, a while ago when these elections first began, years and years ago. And they couldn't get through. Could you imagine a big tzaddik gadol in America can't get through?
Can't get through.
There was this one guy, they didn't let his phone call go through to tzaddik to tzaddik. It had to be tzaddik to the gabbai or to the surroundings of. It's a mess. We're really in a mess. And then when finally, after a million finallys, they said, I want to see it in writing. Now, I would just say, hop on a plane. Just hop on a plane. They're not going to bar you from the door. Maybe they would, but nobody hopped on a plane. Because this was years ago. Huh? Hopped on a plane. I would say, go on a plane and come. How far is it? 12 hours.
Chaperplane.
Chaperplane, yeah. So they didn't do that for whatever, because they didn't call me. Anyway, so they finally
Because you
got.
did pay $5.
I didn't pay my fine, but this is years ago when this organization first began. And it turns out that they said, okay, they'll only accept it if it's in writing, and they got it back in illegible, unreadable. It's crazy. We're in a big mess. Really, we're in a big mess. So when Rebbe Nachman talks about Amunas Tzadikim and Amunas Chacham, so there's different levels of who, you have to have your local Orthodox rabbi that you can call and ask your kitchen questions to. Everybody has to have one of those. You have to have your local Orthodox rabbi who's accessible on a phone, who he knows halacha, and you can ask him your questions. And if you want, you could have a rabbi who you can ask your hashkafa questions to. It's hard in this generation. Rebbe Nachman 200 years ago said, Rebbe Nachman said about his own teachings 200 years ago, because both of his sons died, his baby sons. He had two sons, they both died. And he said he brought those neshamas down with Mashiach neshamas, and they both died. So when they died, he knew, it's going to take a long time till they can pull down those neshamas again. So he said that his teaching is for like 200 years from now. That's what he said 200 years ago. And he talks a lot about finding a tzaddik in connection to a tzaddik, and his kashas to tzaddikim and all of that. You see, it's Chana Zisel. Chana Zisel. Yes.
I'm so sorry. I can't remember if you're 6 or 8.
6 and one floor up.
Okay.
So, I knew that was going to be her question. So that's why I answered the phone. It's a funny day today.
We lived at 4 for a long time.
Yeah, you did? Look at that. And I have a lady next door who I know for years, and she lives next door. We never see each other. She lives in the building next door. Okay. When I lived on a Kablan, I used to see Rav Avadi all the time, because my window was parallel, like my window now to your window, or your window now to my window, diagonal. So that's how my window was to Rav Avadi. I used to see him all the time. Now I don't see my next door neighbors. So I used to see Rav Avadi all the time.
She's 5 years, 607.
Look at that. Umisham. Okay, so now we're talking about Emunah Tzadikim. We're talking about that the angels have 2 hands, and we have to the Emunah Tzadikim that we have to understand get the refuah through the angels, through the asavim, through the herbs here. Oh, see what I just did? I told you not to do. I just did it. Okay. Anyway. Yes, my place. The Rav always says to inhale fragrant spices whenever anybody comes to him with any kind of any emotional stuff. He says, inhale these besamim. So every day, everybody inhales over the sun. He said everybody should be inhaling. I have here fresh lavender. Here, I'll show the audience. Here's lavender. This is lavender. Lavender, they call it. One second. This is lavender without the flowers. This is rosemary. This one's rosemary. This is rosemary,
I think. This one.
This is rosemary.
No, that's rosemary.
This is
rosemary, yeah.
Oh.
This is lavender. Okay. Oh, you made it. This is what grows next door to me, which I forgot the name of it. And this is another thing. They're all borei asay. They're all borei asay besamim. And isay besamim is like mint. You want a hot drink or cold drink? Cold.
And if you sweeten the fragrances, what does it do?
The Ravs, listen, I'm going to tell you a secret. If I would tell you just breathing fragrances, it will have probably very little effect. Not zero, but a little bit. But when you do a tzaddik, that's what Rebbe Nachman's all about. When a tzaddik breaks through and he pulls down a certain koach into his eitzah, into his advice, and you do the advice based on the tzaddik said it, then it has all the healing in the world. So he says it heals emotional, any kind of bother, whatever's bothering you, it heals you. Emotionally, psychologically, mentally, in that realm, it heals that. It heals if a person has too many taivas, it heals that. Here, and desires for things that are not good.
No, but you're saying
inhaling, making a bracha, borei asay besamim. Listen, before I went to the Rav, I never knew this stuff. So I heard the brachas, but I heard the bracha borei asay, but I never knew, for example, that if you scratch a lemon or here. If you scratch a lemon they're both, 1 second, here's another one. No, they're both the same, I'd say, but then different
One
smells,
bracha,
whichever one you
different
like. I never knew that if you scratch a lemon or an orange or a citrus and its oil pops out and you smell that. Did you ever do that? You make a special bracha, hanotzein reich tov b'peirot.
Oh,
Now listen, because I'm hanging around the Sfardim, normally I would say hanotzein reich tov b'peiros, right? Because that's Ashkenazi. But because I never heard that bracha from any Ashkenazi, only from Sfardim, I can't say it Ashkenazi. I only say it Sephardi. It's interesting.
Do essential oils count?
No. Yes, of course. He says essential oils like this. That's why I have lemon on the table. Essential oils. If a very, very expensive oil that's made here in Eretz Yisrael, there's another bracha for that. 1 second. Borei shemen arev. Arev means pleasant. That was the bracha the Gemara says about when they made the special perfume called from Afar Simon. We don't know what that is. It's not what we eat nowadays. They had that special oil that they made in the times of the Beis Hamikdash. That special oil gave off a remarkable smell. Squeeze it, and it takes off this. It gets out more. Squeeze it. It makes more oil. Smell, fragrance when you squeeze it. And so on Borei Shemen Arev, I never heard that bracha either. So there's fine. He makes this bracha. He said, the Rav said, I heard him say this, that if we're up to him, he would even put it into the siddur, like as an addendum. Like now in the siddur, the arts, they have all these addendums to the siddur. Like, you could say, when we were kids, you finished Aleinu, that was it. You ran out, right? Now you have to say the 6 things that the zechirot, the things you're supposed to remember every single day. And it says, near Parshat Haman, bring down Parnasa. And there's all these extra things that were really always in the Sephardic sidders, never in Ashkenazi sidders. Now, even in Ashkenazi sidders, they have all these, like, after you finish davening, you could say all this other stuff. So he said he would ask them to include the bracha on besamim, because he feels it's so vital in this generation, because he didn't say this, I'm saying everybody's messed up. Right? Everybody has stuff. So we need to inhale for it. And he explains it. Very simple. The Medrash tells us that the only of the senses that was never affected by the chait of Adam and Chava was the sense of smell. And it feeds the neshama. And when it feeds the neshama, it's like taking a vitamin into the soul. The soul is what enlivens the body. So if the neshama is strong, then the body gets, and all the neshamadik organs and senses get strengthened. So that's what he says to do. And then on this kind of oil is borei mine besamim. And if you have a doubt on anything, it's, so you burn. And by the way, on anything that smells good, like I'm always walking around squeezing, like the leaves on things, because I only know these 2. I'm so not a plant person because I'm such a city person. My parents never had a backyard that I was growing things. But if you're not sure, so I told you this once before. If the stem is hard, if it comes from a bush, if the stems are hard, it's borei atzei besamim. If the stems are soft, like mint, kuzbara, parsley, mint, all the things that we cook with, those have a good smell. You like them? Squeeze them, and that's borei isvei besamim, because it's asid. It's just the grass.
This is borei
atzei besamim. Atzei besamim. Yeah, squeeze it a little bit and smell it, and it smells good. Okay. Now, you're supposed to smell it first to see if you like the smell.
Really?
If you know you like the smell, but could you imagine if 10 minutes somebody gives you a perfume or something to smell and you don't like it?
It smells a bit like lemon.
So there's a thing that there's something else here that I crushed. I forgot what it's called. That's what you're smelling. It's very delicious. It grows next door to my house. I'll show you when we go out. Literally, if you walk out the building and you go to the right, there's steps. Let's go down the steps. There's a bush on the right side. A friend of mine showed me that because she knows all this stuff, because she grew up in a place where there's herbs all over the place. Okay, should we learn something? I see there's a lot of people on the YouTube.
And they can't smell what we're smelling.
They can't smell what we're smelling
Unless
you have it, right? Okay, so now I'm gonna start, because none of you asked for them anyway. So Yakum, there's a pasuk that says, okay, it's in Bet. We're in Nun Vav. No, Nun Zayin. Sorry, I'm very sorry. Nun Zayin, and Ruthie can't even put it on the screen because she's not on this I don't know how to put on the screen, and Ruthie, who usually does the Zoom, is on the Zoom, but she can't put it on the screen, right? You can't put it on the screen because it's live. The best I could do is like show you like this. Here, I'll show you. It's Nun Zayin, and it's right before the letter Bet. It's a paragraph before the letter Bet. With the pasuk says, Yakum v'lo yamin, b'chayin hainu. Okay, so no. Here, v'tzikunoshi yakim emunah nefula. The fixing for everybody is we have to have stronger emunah. V'yamin emunat chasam. V'yamin emunat chacham. We have to have emunah tzadikim. We have to have a faith and a trust in the Talmidei Chachamim, in those who are sitting and learning day and night, l'shem shamayim. The people who are sitting and learning day and night, and they're getting a lot of money for it, and they're having if they're rich, I don't want to say bad on anybody. Anybody who's learning l'shem shamayim, and they're scholarly, they know what they're talking about. You have to believe them. You have to trust them, and you can ask them your questions. Except in our generation where we have a big mess going on now, we don't know who to ask, and that's the big question nowadays. And that's what the pasuk says. Yakum v'lo yamin b'chayin. Hainu zeh shelo hamin b'chachamim. If a person doesn't believe in tzaddikim, who are called chayim, yakim zot hamunah hanufula, should strengthen their amunah in tzaddikim. And by the way, you have to first search for a tzaddik. And some of the tzaddikim were not the famous ones who you see. There's some famous ones who are well known, and some who are not. But we're searching for tzaddikim. We have to ask Hashem the number one way to find a tzaddik is to ask Hashem to help you, and to feel lost until you find the tzaddik. Now, I told you last week, Rebbe Nachman himself said, where's Dina?
She's late.
She's late. Here. Okay. Rebbe Nachman himself said, because he knew that there was going to be a dearth of tzaddikim. There's going to be not a lot of tzaddikim. And they're going to be sprinkled throughout all the generations. And it's going to be hard for people to access them. So he said, I'll be your tzaddik till the end of time. Rebbe Nachman said that. I'll be your tzaddik. And how do you access me? Learn my teachings. Do my advice. And that's how you're accessing me. Now, we need a live tzaddik to say, but what do I do about my daughter-in-law who said this to me and that to me, and right? So sometimes, right, so you can sometimes do that. I want to tell you something. Likutei Tfilos is Rabbi Nosson had Ruach HaKodesh. I'll say something now. If you open Likutei Tfilos at random, or if you have, let's say, even a Seder in it, you do it. He's on the ball.
Even if you go according to the day, it's on the ball.
I never took advantage of Likutei Tfilot as much as I do now. And I apologize to Rebbe Nachman and to Rebbe Nosson. Mostly to Rebbe Nosson, I apologize. I'll tell you why. When I had Likutei Tfilot in my house for 35 years or whatever, however long I'm connected. But I always found, somehow I found that the tefillot was sometimes too depressing for me. Like he would say, I'm the worst sinner in the world. And I don't have any, many of the tefillot that Rabbi Nosson said were very uplifting. Most are uplifting, but when he would get to those tefillot that said, I'm the worst in the world, or how am I gonna ever atone for all of my mistakes? And I couldn't handle that. And sometimes I would just close the sefer for a long time. And I asked once, I told you this last week, I asked Reb Moshe Borstein about this, and he said, Reb Nosson said it about us. He didn't say that about himself. He said it about us, but still it was very hard for me. And now it's mamish every day, whenever you open it up, it's on the ball. Okay, so now we have the Emunah Chachamim, because they're the ones who are really alive. You have to pick up that Emunah. And then you get healed. You mamish get healed from this. People would never believe that you could be healed, and you could be healed from that. And I see every day the Rav, my Rav is making tzaddikim, and he's making miracles every day. So, because then, this is from last week, the angels get strengthened. If you have him, he's going to explain in a second why. If you have a emunas tzaddikim, the angels get strengthened. The hands of the angels get strengthened. The angels can then receive koach from Hashem and then send the koach. It's just the window.
It's not closed
It's
properly.
not closed
That's what
properly.
I was
I
trying to
can't
figure out.
close those windows properly, and that's why it sounds like a storm. It's not a storm outside. It's just the
That
windows
sounds like
making.
some musical thing
Yeah, it's
happening.
not. It's just these windows. I have an interesting thing. If you afterwards, I'll show you about these windows. There's something interesting about them. Anyway, והם מקו משפיעים כל חוץ לעשת ומופרסם. וזה משך אבירים בכוחו, היינו שמלאכים נקרא אבירים, the angels are called the strong ones, and they, כל אחד ואחד נחזר בכוחו, and they get strength from our believing in the tzaddikim. We'll see in a second why. And then they koch is gematria 28. In both hands is 28 joints, muscles, whatever. הממשיכים שפע לכל הדברים שנתמנו עליהם, ואז יש לנו רפואה, כי דברי החכם מעשים מתקנים בבחינת ידיים. Somehow, the tzaddikim, the Talmidei Chachamim, somehow are empowered to, when you trust the Talmid Chacham, and because we can't get to the roots of what they're thinking, they'll say to you, let's say, for example, they'll say to you, remember in the beginning with the smartphones and the internet, it was all possible. No, don't touch it. And, there was some who listened, some to this day listen, some who don't listen, like all of us, we're on the internet right now. So we're saying, okay, but it's the Eitz Hadas Tov Hara, it has good, it has bad, and I only do it for good. But could you imagine the foresight of the tzaddikim? I don't know if anybody of you remember when internet began, but I remember you had to connect the computer to your telephone. There was a special plug, and you somehow connect to the telephone, and you dialed a number, or the computer dialed a number, and then it connected, and all you got was email. That was, it was like fair. And the Rabbanim, originally, they saw with very far eyes that this is going to be a big destructive force in the Jewish people.
You're right.
And they said, no, we don't touch it. And now everybody touches it because now there's kosher internet and there's kosher.
You can't do banking.
Can't do, and you can't. And the goyim, the evil forces of the world made it such that we need it because of the business now. Everybody has it, and you can't. So you can't pay your bills. There's no such thing as I do know people who still go to the bank. I know people who go to the bank, and then the bank hador closed. They didn't know how to pay a bill because they always used to go to the bank hador and pay their bills. And whatever, it's impossible it's impossible to live without this now. We became but maybe let's just say, I don't know, because we can't go backwards in time, but let's just say that no from Jew ever touched the internet. Maybe it wouldn't have popularized. And right away Chabad said it's okay, because that was their shita. Their shita is it's okay as long as you use it for kosher. Remember, so whatever it is, emunas chachamim. When the Satmar Rav Zatzal, when he said, don't join with the Zionists in the government, and the other Rabbanim did join, and there's still a big machlokas, and I'm not going to start talking about that because it's going to make us start screaming and yelling at each other, but still, he had a certain vision that other people just didn't have the vision of. He saw today. He saw, he saw what's going on today. And he maybe, he saw that it pushed away the Mashiach's coming. Maybe, we don't know. But tzaddikim, we make fun of them. Instead of saying, whoa, maybe I should pay attention a little bit. And everybody has to, and it's a very touchy subject, because if I listen to my tzaddik, and my tzaddik is saying different than your tzaddik, so now what? We don't know how to deal with that. You have to pick her up. You have to pick her up and then stay with it. Don't pick her up who
opposite things.
say, because it can be, our brain can't understand. How can it be Hillel and Shammai, Abaye and Rava in the Gemara?
I saw them. I was near Kever.
You went to Abaye and Rava? Yeah,
so
they're buried next to each other?
in the same cave.
In the same cave.
With Rav Dini.
Rav who?
Dini.
Rabbi Dini, yeah. Well, I haven't been in the north in a long time. Since a long time. Anyway, let's make a seal to the north. Now Rebbe Nachman is going to explain to us, why is it that by believing, by trusting, by choosing a path, choosing a tzaddik, choosing a derech, It's very hard. It's very easy to be Breslov because then you don't commit to anything.
Right.
Because there's nobody saying to you, we have Breslov minhagim. There's no such
Except
thing.
for onions.
No, there's no such thing. I'll tell you in a second about that. There's no such thing as Breslov minhagim. Meaning, Rebbe Nachman said, you want to wear a short and for a man, short jacket or long jacket, stroimel or casket, like whatever. It doesn't matter. There's no uniform by Breslov. Only halacha. Rebbe Nachman said that. There's no minhagim. Only halacha. That's why somebody told me a very funny story that he heard when he went to Uman. Who was this? Was this one of your boys who said this? No. Somebody told me this, that he heard a Sephardi kid say to his Israeli Sephardi kid, real Sephardi, like Yemenite kind of Sephardi, say to his kid in Uman, no, the Sephardi kid said to his father in Uman, how come there are all these Ashkenazim here? Because he thought that all Breslovers, because he's Breslov, and he's Yemenite, he thought only Breslov is Yemenite, because only Breslovers that he knows are Taimanim. So Rebbe Nachman says there's no such thing as Breslov anything, only halacha, except for Breslov teaching. So you're going to say, so Rebbe Nachman, the thing with the onions is written in the Gemara. And nowadays the Rav says it's only about white onions, and even that's a suffix, but purple onions and green onions you could eat raw. So I was very happy to hear that. What?
White onions you're not supposed to eat raw.
Because the Gemara says it's unhealthy. And there's a whole discussion about, are any of the foods that we have today even remotely similar to the foods that they had 2,000 years ago? You know, the Rambam says that the Rambam has a whole diet of the Rambam, but it's so not our food today, right? Like, we don't eat that. They wouldn't recognize anything on this table. Okay, maybe they would recognize nothing. They would say it looks like water, but it's in a thing. It looks like almonds, but like they wouldn't know what that is.
What did they eat?
They ate from the tree. They ate real food, fruits,
From
vegetables.
the trees.
I mean, they would take an orange from the tree and eat it. They didn't have oranges that look like our oranges today, or our
So they had no
apples.
meat.
They had
On
meat. Of course,
Shabbos,
they ate
no?
meat.
On Shabbos.
Meat's the whole since the base of Mikdash. We've been eating meat since Adam and Eve, or since Noah.
Not from the trees.
Fish. They ate everything. They just didn't eat
The cow.
chocolate.
Chocolate.
They didn't eat
Oh,
coffee.
so we should make up for it. And have
Balance it out.
They didn't have cake. They had bread. We wouldn't recognize their bread. We would think it's like, I don't know what we would think it. No, we would think
They had
it's,
sourdough.
they had sourdough. That's exactly what they ate. Sourdough. But not fancy with a cut like that and they ate. So you know that I once heard in a shir, in a Gemara shir that we were learning online when it was Corona, I heard that they was talking about what did people drink in olden days. They didn't drink, I'm talking about our people, they didn't drink water. It was polluted. They used to drink wine.
Really?
Yeah, that was the
Children?
main drink. And milk.
Wow.
They never thought to drink juice. They drank wine, and the water wasn't drinkable. They drank wine and they drank milk. I think that they made wine with, they diluted the wine with, I guess, water, but they never
Why
drank
not the
wine.
wells? Did they take the wells?
Yeah, they had wells, but they diluted the water. They didn't have like what we have nowadays. They didn't.
Refined.
You know, they didn't have. Okay, now Rebbe Nachman's going to explain how come it is that when you have, see, now I'm in my own house. I can like talk now for hours because I have to go up to the day. How do you get stronger emunah? Yaakov. Okay, now if we would just read, if I would just tell you that sentence and close the book, like what does that mean?
What's the sentence?
To pick up weak emunah, that we believe in our money and we don't believe in God, that we believe in our kochim and we believe in ourselves, is only by the aspect of Yaakov Avinu. Hainu. Now he explains. Al yedei neder, by making a neder. Hainu, wait. Sheyidor ezazavar. You make a pledge. The yekayem miyad, and do it immediately, because you're not allowed to make a neder. You're not allowed to, we have to stay far away from Nedarim. Rebbe Nachman taught us a very interesting teaching. He said, if you make a neder, when that thing is available to you, let's say, for example, I take a piece of chocolate. It's healthy chocolate without sugar, just for the audience. I take a piece of chocolate, I put it in my hand, and I say, and I hold it tight, and I say, I'm now making a neder that I'm going to make the bracha shahakol on this chocolate, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, shakol niyeh b'dvaro, and I eat it.
Why did he make a neder?
Because if you make a neder, he's going to explain
Uh-huh.
that Yaakov Avinu made neders. Let's explain this, because he's going to try to teach us something. He's going to try to teach us to get to root causes. You know that root causes is something that the Western world doesn't pay attention to. For example, the difference between Chinese medicine and Western medicine. Well, you're both, because your husband's a doctor of both. So we have here Cheryl Matthew, who is a famous Dr. Matthews' wife and assistant, who he's a doctor of medicine, very famous, and went to study Chinese medicine and is a doctor of Chinese medicine, and he does both of them together. He decides when you need this, when you need that. If you ever need you should never need him. He should become retired, and you should be able to go learn all day long, which he does half the day anyway, probably, right? So in Chinese medicine, if you say you have a headache, if you go to the doctor, what's his name over there in the Kupat Cholim, you say you have a headache, he says, all right, here, take an Acamol. Take a pain relief. What does Acamol do? Or any of those pain reliefs? It does bad stuff to your body. It breaks, it blocks the brain message when you write it, numbs, it opens up the constricted vessels. Again, that's not such a bad thing, but you can have a cup of coffee, does the same thing. It does all kinds of things chemically to your body to make you think that you don't have a headache. Meanwhile, you totally still have a headache. You just don't feel it. So, and why did your body give you a headache? Your body's telling something to you. What is it telling to you? You're ignoring what it's telling to you because you just mask the pain because you don't want to have the pain, so you're not paying attention to anything. So if you go to Chinese medicine, they're going to say, okay, what kind of a headache? First of all, where is the headache? Eyes, up here, top of the head, back of the head, this side. They're going to ask you where it is, and every one of those places is paralleling a different place, internal organ. They're going to say, did you drink enough today? Let's just say. Then
Or
you're.
did you drink too much the night before?
Or did you? Wait, what?
Have something
Too
else.
much the night before, that's why you have a headache.
Oh,
The ancient one.
you mean the
Hangover.
hangover, right? Okay, so all kinds of things, but it's Chinese medicine is trying to. I just got in that Osher ad. It's not fancy at all. It's Chinese medicine is trying to get to the root. Like, what is it? Like, why? What's the connection between a headache and your pancreas? I just made it up, but that's what they're trying to figure out. And they're going to say the headache is the outside and the internal organ is the inside. Now, what's inside the internal organ that's off, etc., etc. So here's going to show us how that works in Ruchnius. He says like this: Yaakov Avinu made neders. Like it says, Yaakov made a neder, right? He said, what was the words that he said? That if I come back to this place again, you give me food and clothing, I'll come back and I'll make this. He said it when he came to the Beis Hamikdash. He said, I'll come back and I'll make this a place of davening for Hashem for my children. When you make a neder, you're going to have stronger emunas chacham if you make the kind of neder I just said. Now in other places, Rebbe Nachman says never make a neder, because let's just say I'm holding that chocolate in my hand and I'm holding it tight. And I'm just about to say the bracha, and all of a sudden there's an earthquake. And or somebody topples me off my chair. And I didn't have a chance to make the bracha because I got toppled off my chair. That's dangerous because you made a neder. So he's supposed to always say, b'li neder. So let's see what he says. When you make a neder, and Rebbe Nachman, by the way, used to say like this, he used to really make a neder. He makes scary neders. He would say something like, I'm making a neder that I'm not going to pick my head out of the book for 10 minutes. Now my Rav, the Yenuka says, he tells the men in terms of learning, he says, if you want to concentrate on learning, you want to remember your learning, and I think this is good for women also, start like that. Don't make a neder. But he says, make a clock, alarm, and don't get up from the book, don't stop reading, learning, until the alarm goes off. He says, start with 10 minutes. Do that for as long as, then increase. He says this is good for everything in terms of learning, for memory, for understanding, for tahara, for purity. I forgot all the good things he said that it's good for. So, but don't say neder. Okay, Rebbe Nachman used to do that. He would make a neder. I'm not gonna. Let's say he would hear somebody in the house who he knew was coming in, was a chatterer, maybe with chas v'shalom say lashon hara. He would say, "I'm making a neder not to go downstairs and talk to that person." And then he would be so bound by that neder, he would be so afraid of breaking that neder that it would take away his yetzer hara for talking to that person. Ki כשאין לו אמונת חכמים, זה בחינת הסתלקות החכמים. When a person doesn't have, now he's going to explain how this works, this whole mechanism. If a person doesn't have emunat chachamim, it's like that, God forbid, the tzaddik, the chacham died, or he left. B'chinas pele, and that's a pele. A pele is awesome, something awesome. B'chinas hineni yosef lahafli et ha'am hazeh haflei v'afele v'avda chachmat chachamam. One of the sad prophecies that Yeshayahu said that happened to us over the generation is Hashem says, I'm going to do something so haflei v'afela in a negative sense, so terrible, but it's so like unbelievably how do you say pella? Wondrously horrible, wondrously wondrous in a negative way, that I'm going to take away all their chachamim, I'm going to take away all their wise people. I'm going to remove the wisdom from the nation, and they won't have anyone to guide them. And since the word haflei v'afele was used in conjunction with chachamim, and since okay, we'll see in a second the next link. V'darshu chazal chachamim zachrinu levacha shezeh nemar al silukam shel chachamim. V'tikuno shel hafla'a hazot hainu shel silukam shel chachamim tikuno hafla'a shel neder b'chinas ki yafli lindor neder. So Chumash says the word pele is also used in the context of making a neder. It says in Bamidbar ki yafli lindor neder. If you should push yourself to make a neder, should you overpower or empower yourself to make a neder? So since the word pele is used for neder, and since the word pele is used for if chachamim die, so when you make a neder, then you can enliven chachamim. It's the same word. The root comes from the same. Ki al yedei, now he's not finished. Ki al yedei haneder hu oleh l'shorsh hachachamim mishurashim sham. When you make a neder, when a person makes a neder, a promise. I'm sorry, I didn't translate that properly. Sorry. The word neder means a vow, a promise. We're always saying, Jews are always saying, bali neder, means without, I'm not promising. Now, we don't say that because of OCD. We say that because we don't want to ever promise. Like, I'll meet you at 10 o'clock. It's not really a neder, but some people will say bali neder. Usually for a mitzvah, we'll say bali neder. Like, I'll read, who wants to divide up Tehillim? I'll read such and such a parak, bali neder, because it's a mitzvah.
Things can change from minute to minute. You never know.
Nachon, that's why people say bali neder, because we know. And then we have Rosh Hashanah. Then we have Yom Kippur when we say Kol Nidre, right? And we have some people do have the Rav does Hataras and time every Friday by Shacharis. If you ever want to have a really amazing experience, you come Shacharis to Rishon and go to the shul, and the Rav makes Hataras and time every Friday to clear the week. I think a lot of Sfardim do that, not just the Rav. I think a lot of Sfardim do that. So he says like this. He says that the root of the soul of wise people in Shemayim, whatever that means, a soul root, because we have different types of soul roots. We have the soul root that we were born from. That's a given. Like, where were you born? What root is your soul? But then we have the place where we go to when we serve Hashem, and I don't know how to explain that. So that soul root where the Chachamim are right now is connected to the same root where Nidarim is connected to. Vows are connected, just like they said about Avraham Avinu. It says Avraham Avinu kept the whole Torah before it was given. Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, our grandfathers, they kept the whole Torah. What does that mean? It means that they knew the roots of the mitzvah. We don't understand the roots. We're just doing the branches. We're doing the externals. But they saw what the mitzvah does, what the mitzvah accomplishes, what's really happening in spiritually when we do a mitzvah. And they were able to access that. Now, did they say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad? Right? Right? Anochi Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Hotzetzecha Me'eretz Mitzrayim. They didn't say that because it didn't happen yet. But they were able to say Shema when it says that Yaakov Avinu, when he saw Yosef and he said Shema Yisrael, right? First name, it could be he said that first line because his name was in Israel. But it means that they knew something that's so much deeper than our brains could even understand, even how to explain it. They knew that. So somehow, Talmidei Chachamim who are totally rooted in the Torah, totally rooted in the Torah, the roots of that avoda is also connected to the root of a neder. Now we can make up all kinds of things and says yes, because the neder is the mouth and the Torah is studied through the mouth, and we can make all kinds of intentions. We don't know the idea of roots, but Rebbe Nachman does. He knows about roots, and he said a Talmid Chacham and a neder and angels who can heal us. It's all the same root. When you don't have a Talmid Chacham, when you don't believe in a Talmid, you don't have your Rav, you don't have a tzaddik, then you're not. It's like a root canal. It's like a loose tooth that's loose, and that root is healing and angels and darim and tzaddikim, and they're all in that same place. So you have a loose tooth there. It's not good. So you have to strengthen the root, strengthen those things right in the tooth, and that's by strengthening emunah chachamim. And if you want, make a very, very careful neder like that. You know that you can do it. Like, here's the tzedakah box, and here's the coin. All I have to do is drop it, and it's done. So then I can make a neder. I'm giving this coin. I'm putting it on the table for tzedakah. I did it. Now, I wouldn't even be afraid to do that personally, just letting you know.
Why would you make a neder by doing that?
Because when you make...
Implying that you're going to do it again? Is that the idea?
No, you're implying that I have intention right now to give this money to tzedakah, and I'm going to give it to tzedakah. So it's a statement of intent. A neder is a statement of intent, a promise. I'm promising to give this money to charity. Let's say a person's at my door, and I go to him and I say, okay, I'm going to, I can enhance the mitzvah by saying, I'm making a neder that I'm going to give you this charity, and I give it to him. So I just enhance it by making a promise to do it and then immediately carrying out my promise. Now, I'm scared to do that because Rebbe Nachman in other places says, don't do that. But here he says, you can do it.
But here it's meant further in the future.
Nachon, so you can make a neder for right now. By the way, there's also the neder, like, I'm not going to eat this. I'm not going to eat something. I can make a neder. Neder, nidava, there's all kol nidre, right? There's all the words that we use for making a promise. We use all kinds of words for making promises. Well, we got somebody from China on YouTube. Welcome. I don't know if that's China or Japan. Forgive me. Or maybe it's something. It looks Chinese to me. I mentioned Chinese medicine. That's why you came on. Okay, let's just finish this section. Right? 1 second. So, but instead of doing a neder, we could just strengthen our emunah chachamim, our trust in the sages. And by the way, I said this last week, and I love this teaching, so I'll say it again for the people who are on. There's a big problem with Reform Judaism, Conservative Judaism, Reconstructionist, do-it-yourself Judaism, Tikkun Olam Judaism, make up right, all these Judaisms that are not under the umbrella of the Torah. Either they don't believe the Torah, God forbid, was given from God, or they don't believe that it was whatever all their beliefs is that they're not keeping the Torah. And what part are they not keeping? They're not keeping the oral law. So, but they are. They just don't know it because they're keeping the Jewish calendar. Everybody keeps Pesach the same. They all look at the Maxwell House calendar or Osherod calendar. What's the calendar that they give out now? The Haggadah. No, that's not Haggadah. Did Maxwell House also give out calendars? Who used to give out calendars? Only the yeshivas. Anyway, they would say like, or they would read the newspaper, like, when does Passover come out? In the New York Times, it says that next Tuesday is going to be Passover. They say, okay, how does the New York Times know that? They look on the calendar. What's the calendar? The calendar is all Torah Shabbat Pes, all the oral Torah that was compacted into a calendar, into all the things that we do communally. That's great. I love that. So now he says like this: the כי על ידי הנדר הוא עולה לשורש החכמים משורשים שם, היינו בבחינת פלאוס חכמה, ויודע ומכיר מעלות החכמים, ועל ידי זה הוא שב ומאמין בהם. So Rebbe Nachman is telling us a shortcut, and he says, if you make a neder and you immediately perform it, if you make a promise and you immediately perform it, then somehow you're going to strengthen your trust in the wisdom of the Jewish people that we've been living for thousands and thousands of years. It'll strengthen your trust subliminally. Why? Because somehow, and in the root of causes, the root of all things, that place of promises is rooted where our grandfather Yaakov Avinu was rooted, because he made a promise. And he's our Torah sage. This is right. Yesterday was the end of Tiferes, of the week of Tiferes of Yaakov Avinu. And somehow it strengthens your Emunus Chachamim. Now, even believing this is Emunus Chachamim, because Rebbe Nachman is not, if we hang in long enough, today we're holding by Emunus Chachamim. Why? Because we don't understand this mechanism. If you tell me that if I'm thirsty and I drink water and I'll be quenching my thirst, and I indeed drink water and I quench my thirst, then you told me something. I followed your instructions and it worked. So I understand that mechanism. But I'm telling you right now that this is a spiritual dynamic that's going on, and we don't understand the dynamic. We don't see how it is that the root of the soul of our grandfather Yaakov Avinu, somehow connected to the root of his soul, is the concept of making spiritual promises and keeping them, and having trust in the rabbis to guide us. We don't see that connection. And the fact that when we have trust in the rabbis to guide us, it's easier for us to pray for healing, and it's easier for God to heal us through whatever mechanisms we use, whether it's Acamol, Tylenol, or whether it's Chinese medicine. We don't understand the mechanism of that. It's not mappable yet. He's not really. I'm going to tell you, give you a spoiler. Oh, sorry, I don't know how to fix that. It's my alarm clock that goes off every day at 11:57. I don't know how to fix it because, sorry, maybe this lady on YouTube can help me. The instructions for that clock came in Chinese, and it's one of those electric with red. What's it called? Like that, exactly. But that clock, the instructions came in English, and the words are in English. This one, when you press the buttons, it only comes up Chinese. Don't ask me how I figured the time out. I keep pushing every button, every combination of buttons, 2 buttons at a time. I did everything. I got the time right, but I can't get that alarm.
Did you get YouTube instructions?
I don't know how to YouTube instructions on a.
You give them the company name and their number on it, and then you.
Oh yes, so that's interesting.
That's what people do today. They don't even send instructions anymore. You're supposed to go online.
Are you kidding me? See, and it goes off. When that happened, the first time it happened, I said, "Oh no! Every time I'm going to have to go and press the button, it's going to go on forever and ever all day." So it's plugged in, so it doesn't, like, the battery doesn't run out. But and then Baruch Hashem, it goes off after 1 minute. So I just leave it. I know every time that goes off, it's 11:57 a.m. Jerusalem time. Now it's 11:58 because it goes on for 1 hour. Now Rebbe Nachman says, now he's going to take more psukim, and he's going to do this, and he does this to us all the time. He knows everything by heart, Rebbe Nachman, and he throws psukim at us. And he says, you think you know what that pasuk means? Like, for example, the pasuk that we said, Ki yafli lindor neder. If one day you should wondrously make a promise to God, we say, okay, that's a funny word, and I don't have my R scroll Chumash next to me, so I don't know how they translated it in English, but it's an unusual terminology. Maybe it means, should you perhaps once happen to make a neder, because it means that we shouldn't be making Nederim promises a lot. But we didn't know, if we looked at that word, we wouldn't know that, oh, there's the word neder, that's connected to Yaakov Avinu. There's the word Pele, that's connected to Yaakov Avinu. There's the word Pele, that's connected to the dying of tzaddikim. We wouldn't make those associations. Rebbe Nachman says, oh, it's so simple. Take a thing from here, a thing from there. It's like the way you cook. Some people cook like that. They line up all their spices, and then they just, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Rebbe Nachman takes the whole Tanakh, takes a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a pasuk here, a pasuk there. When Rebbe Nachman does this, we see his brilliance, and we say, okay, I'm going to listen to you, because you know much more than me. And you understand much more about the soul than I do. You know much more Tanakh than I do. So I'm going to bend my head and acknowledge that you're a Talmid Chacham. So then the pasuk says, this is what it says. I will thank you. I will extol your name because you did wondrous things. It says in Yeshaya. That's the pasuk. It says, I will extol your name because you did greatness, you did wondrous things. And then from far, advice that comes from far, emunah omen, I will, how do I say? Exercise. How do you say exercise when you do it again and again and again? Train in emunah. I will train myself in emunah. Hainu. What does that pasuk mean? Hainu. Now I can read to you the English translation, but Rebbe Nachman is going to take it and say like this. Hainu. Aide bechinas neder. When you make a neder here, neder connected to Pele, because the word Pele, neder, another pasuk. When you make a neder, doesn't say when you make a neder. In the aspects, by the power of the existence of the concept of a neder, shu bechinas Pele, which is wondrous. Nitakein emunat chachamim. It fixes emunat chachamim. She'asata merachok, because that their advice or their guidance is a little bit from a distance. Bechinas, what does it mean? Mimerchak tavi lachma, right? We say ki divrei Torah aniyim mekomim b'mekomam v'ashim b'mekom acher. To get eitzah from a tzaddik, it's not so simple. To get eitzah from a tzaddik. Sometimes it's easily accessible at tzaddik, and sometimes the advice is not easily accessible. Sometimes the answer is easily attainable from a tzaddik, and sometimes the answer is not easily attainable. That's what it says in Gemara, that Torah is rich in one place sometimes and poor in another place. For example, I always thought about, how come the Torah gives us all the numbers of the tribes and then adds them up again? And how come the Torah gives us the intense details, the intricate details of how to make the Mishkan when we only were going to do that once in the history of the world? It's rich in certain areas. And how come the Torah doesn't tell us all the laws of tznius? In this generation, women have a very hard time with tznius, dressing appropriately, dressing in a dignified manner. How come the Torah doesn't talk about that? How come the Torah doesn't talk about so many things? How come the Torah doesn't talk about the Lametes Malachos? How come the Chazal have to learn it out? And talks about it. So it's rich in certain places. Now, of course, we don't understand why. Hashem is going to show us. That's what's going to be our eternal pleasure in life. To understand finally understand what the Torah is talking about. We're going to right now we don't understand kiman anything. We hold on to what we do understand, but we don't understand almost. So shechachamim lemedim divreihem mimekomot v'chokim shebatorah. And sometimes chachamim, what it means here is chachamim. In English, there's a terrible expression that I'm going to use, and please don't misunderstand it or take it out of context. There's a concept called far-fetched. You know what means far-fetched? Like, that's a far-fetched idea. It means it's so out there. But usually, those are correct ideas. They'll say about people that they came before their time. And they had ideas that were much more before they were too advanced for the time now. Yeah, they say that about the Ramchal, about the Rambam, and about tzaddikim in this generation. So Chachamim, some of their teachings come from a very far away place. Shezen imsar lehem lidrosh haTorah lechol chaptzehem b'shlosh midos haTorah nidreshes bahem. The Chachamim, which is what Rebbe Nachman does, the ideas that the Chachamim present are so far beyond our concept, so far beyond our recognition. For example, I heard a very good quote today. Somebody sent me, I love when people send me good, relevant quotes that I can use that are. So somebody sent me a quote that says, I forgot the scientist. So some scientist said this. I forgot his name, but he said, when you first begin to study science, you become an atheist. But if you keep digging, you see God at the bottom of the cup of the thing. That's what he said. If you first begin, if you don't learn deep enough science, if you learn science in the beginning, you become an atheist. You think like, whoa, but you keep digging until you get to the bottom, there's God. That's some scientists said that. So that's the same idea. When we hear tzaddikim, so some of their ideas are just too far, they're too high, they're too distant, they're too sublime. And also they're allowed to make midrashim. Rebbe Nachman says Hashem gave us the 13 midos that the Torah is expounded upon. Chachamim, like what Rebbe Nachman does all the time, he takes a pasuk from here, pasuk from there. He says this means this means that, this word means this word, and we say, like, what are you talking about? And that's what Chacham are allowed to do. That they're given that permission, they're given that gift, they're given the talent, they're given the protection. You gotta go. Yeah, I have to go. Oh, you're looking for me? Yeah, you're right. I have to be there. מחויבים אנחנו להאמין לכל דבריהם בבחינת לא תעשו מן הדבר הזה ימין ושמאל. ויעקב הוא בבחינת נדר שהוא ראש לכל הנודרים, was the first one to ever make a neder, and says ויתר נדר, יעקב נדר. וזהו מידי אביר יעקב. Yaakov is called the strong one. Yeshua Taken מידי המלאך, who also called Abirim. Now Yaakov was called an Abir, and a warrior, and all the Chacham, the angels are called warriors. So in order to receive the power of Yaakovinu and the power of the angels, you have to use the power of the neder, which Yaakovinu was the first one to make a promise. Shubuchinos Yaakov Kanal. Misham Ro'eh Even Yisrael. Okay, you know Rabbi Steinsaltz, that's where he took his name from. Misham Ro'eh Even Yisrael. Hainu al yedei neder nitaken emunah zot nikran Ro'eh. B'chinas Ro'eh emunah. Okay, I don't have time to explain that. Let me just borrow your pen for a second. And I'm going to explain.
Also, why is Yaakov
because it says Abir Yaakov. This pasuk, it says that Yaakov is an Abir, and the pasuk says that in Bereshis Parak Memtes. I think. Let me see. There's my Tanakh. I don't have it here.
You have to go. I'll look it up myself.
Okay, no, but it says here. I think it's because he's a Sham Memtes. I think it's there. There's so many interesting things here because Abir Yaakov is also the name.
Abu Chatzera.
Is that where the Abu Chatzera? Yeah, Abu Chatzera comes from. And also there's a guy, I forgot his name. I used to know his name. He says that an Abir is a warrior. And he says, I forgot his name, now he's probably in the 70s. He said that he got a tradition from his father, he's Yemenite. He got a tradition from his father, that they have a certain way of doing like karate,
Right.
shoot, whatever.
Yeah, he teaches this.
What's that called? Martial arts. According to the Torah, he says. Yeah, he calls it Abir Yaakov. He calls his way of doing martial arts Abir Yaakov.
Right.
And also, Steinsaltz took this from he took his name. We'll talk about this next because Steinsaltz, right? That was his name. Steinsaltz means a salty, strong rock, right? So, wow, you're really a treasure. You come in an envelope. That's so cool. Okay, everybody's giving all their money to
60 is that for today and
Chanazisel. Everybody's giving all the money to Chanazisel. Now, let me just say again, I don't know how to do this, ladies. I'm not a good business person, but I'm going to say it even though because I told Gola today, and I'll tell to you, and you can tell when you learn Torah, whenever anyone's, you need to have an exchange. In order for you to absorb, we need to have an exchange. So anybody who's going to help me continue the shir, it's going to go on Be'ezrat Hashem forever. But poor Chana Zisel has taken upon herself the ridiculous job of being treasurer for this year. So if you want her contact info, text me or leave me a message here. And I think the message is working when I'm not on, because somebody messaged me, said she worked 12 hours today, and she has to go to sleep. But somehow the message appeared on my screen before I even gave the shear. I don't know how that happened. Okay, who's on from our regular shear? Can you type in the chat? You see where it says chat? Can you type in your name so we know who's here? Can you do that? Make us all happy? Maybe not. Maybe nobody heard anything I said. Has this shear been recorded? It's on YouTube. YouTube Live. What?
You said that when someone sponsors the shiur, we should still pay?
I think so. Oh, Vera's on. Thank you, Vera. No, you don't think so? Just to collect? You don't think so?
That's-
Okay, so then we won't do that. Hi, Debbie.
If I'm sponsoring, I want to feel like
Yeah, but you see, if you're sponsoring, then, one second, let me just,
that I'm taking responsibility for that shiur.
let's weigh that. If you're sponsoring, and then you're treating everybody to the shear, that's what you
We're
feel?
happening to her, we're putting in reserve.
It's still. I
No,
don't
but then
see
we
that
don't
as
pay
being
next
fair.
time, that gets complicated. Personally, I think it's easier to pay per share if you're here and keep it simple instead of,
No, that's not
No,
point. The
we're
point is
talking
if somebody's sponsoring it, then why should we, other people pay?
Why should we
As a
pay
double
while it's being
Right.
sponsored?
Right,
Doesn't make
okay.
sense to
We
me.
never did that before, right? When somebody was sponsored, we say, okay, nobody has to pay, right?
I'm okay with it, but whatever.
Okay, so if a person sponsors a shear, do they mind that other people also pay for the shear? That's the question. If you were sponsoring a shear, would you mind that other people also contribute to the shear?
Also contribute if it's not sponsoring.
also takes away from the generosity of sponsoring it.
That's what you're feeling? I'm just asking you,
That's just my.
who else is
instinct.
on? Yeah,
my
okay,
instinct is
okay.
if,
okay.
You know.
See, I'm so not
Yeah,
good at this.
If anyone else pays, then it's like, I'm also helping to sponsor.
But there's a difference between when you sponsor Le'ili Nishma somebody for the merit of somebody, and because then you're directing your kesef to a neshama who needs whatever. So is that the same as if you just want to contribute to the shir? I'm soon going to not charge anybody anything. Belina, they're better.
It's too hard
It's
for
too
you.
complicated for me, and everybody will just do whatever they want. I
I
see.
think it's your hashkafa, like I feel like, give money so we'll have more money later, it's this contribution, it's not like I'm
Mhm.
this year.
So it's like an advance on the next week that nobody pays.
Yeah, that's how I look at it. I guess everybody's holding hashkafa, how they see what they're doing.
But the person who's donating doesn't. We don't want them to feel that their donation was for nothing. Like, why should they donate? And they could also just pay this 30 shekels per year and say the name of the person who they want to say it for. So Hannah Zisel has a point. That, by the way, that's a great color for you. Does everybody agree? That whole look, it's not on. Nobody could hear me. I put it on silent.
Since you walked in. Because I had it already for 15 years. Don't you think I should
That's-
wear it?
yeah. Okay, nobody else wants to tell us that we're here, that they're here? Everybody wants to say a secret?
So,
Okay, hi Sarah, hi Vera, hi Debbie. Oh, I know, 1 second. Ruthie, you were not able to get on because you don't have internet in your house, is that it? Yeah, you could look at all those papers. That's the report, I have better ones for that. Okay, and nobody else wants to share that they're on? Thank you so much for coming. I have no idea what's gonna be next Monday. Every week, we're gonna live from week to week, and,
Day to day.
day to day, minute to minute. Yeah, so I'll close this year now. Bye, everybody. Thank you for coming. And the people who are going to be listening later, we're going to also try to figure out how to make this happen. The Monday Shir generally is not on internet. That's what happens. Usually the Monday Shir, Ruthie has it on her private YouTube channel, and she sends it out to just our kfutza. The reason we had to make it public today is because Ruthie's internet was down, and I couldn't go to Golda's house with my computer. So we stayed in my house, which, by the way, this is my house. Welcome. You can see a little bit
So
of
we
my house.
are going to continue the YouTube.
No, only on Ruthie's. I'm going to continue Ruthie's YouTube, I'll continue with his YouTube, which is only given to our groups. It's not a public thing.
Okay,
And maybe we should.
so Ruthie's busy, okay, because 2 people from Kutzlaritz asked me. for
Right.
a
Okay. Wait.
connection,
I'm turning this off.
but
Bye,
we didn't
everybody.
have,
So the one person I emailed